Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins, we've got breaking news just into Third Phase of Moon, but first, we received coordinates earlier today from a submitter via our Gmail of something mysterious in Egypt. Did we discover the Area 51 equivalent in Egypt? It's hard to tell, but these are images and Google coordinates I have never seen before. If you've seen these, let me know. But right now, I think this is the first time the world is seeing this on a big scale right here on Third Phase of Moon. Guys, tell me what the heck is going on. We have these entryways into the middle of the desert of something unknown, some maybe possible underground base. Again, more corridors that are quite large, but what's interesting is that there is no location given by Google Maps or Google Earth themselves to give any kind of identification to what these structures could be. And as we're looking around, we can see that this is very barren land. We see some old remnants of some ancient maybe structure there, and again, it's hard to tell, but what we're looking at seems that there's something unusual that has yet to be seen or explained. That's what we're trying to find out. Guys, if you've seen anything like this in the region, tell me. But right now, close to the proximity we just showed to you, probably less than a quarter mile, we have another structure with another entry. And this is getting more strange as we're looking at this. Again, we've got breaking news coming in from Hawaii, but we wanted to share this. Everything's kind of liquid here. So we're going to get some measurements of these doors. And this measures exactly 23 feet in height, give or take a foot or so. These are massive doorways. And again, no explanation. Brett, what's your thoughts when you first saw this?
Yeah, I'm wondering if this is megalithic, some sort of ancient Egyptian structure. Look at the 200 feet in width right there in distance. And then, so this is scalable. This is large. And what's underneath there? It seems like we got entryways, 4 of them in this whole, the structure of whatever this is, 2 on the right and 2 on the left. And they're, like you said, pretty large entryways. Some of the close-ups that we're just showing have a kind of a megalithic proportions to it. They have archways, and this, here's a good close-up right here. You can see that there's something, tire marks going into the area. Here's another measurement, 22 feet, basically pretty much the same reference as the other side. They're going into something here. This does look very similar to when he scanned Area 51.
Absolutely. But what's interesting is that this is in close proximity to the Egyptian army, and it definitely has a government pin. It's official. There you go. The army facility in Egypt. I'm sure that they have multiple bases of the army, but right now, this is possibly the Area 51 of Egypt, another army base. Again, accessible. These are government pins, so these are public out there. Again, the army facility of Egypt. That's info, but what's it doing in close proximity to these structures? Look at this. We have the kind of the pyramidal shape on top of the doorway. Again, tire tracks or something else that enters in and out of this facility. Very strange. And again, no explanation. And that's why we're putting it out right here at Third Phase of Moon. We haven't seen these Google coordinates. And we broke the news over a decade, at least 14 years, bringing you hundreds of these Google coordinates that have never been seen. And next thing you know, everybody's talking about it. Once you share the location, cat's out of the bag, and that's what we do. We're not afraid of sharing the locations. Again, another measurement off this doorway. It's not quite as large as the one to the left, 17 feet approximately. Again, still not exactly sure. We see some apparatus, possibly air conditioning vents. I'm just not seeing any kind of roads that are practical to each other. Let's see, what's the measurement here? About 560 feet or so. So these are in close proximity. What's interesting, who knows what this spot represents? I'd like to find out. Now, let's talk about what was happening. And guys, let me know if you could let us find out what's going on in Egypt. But what's going on in Hawaii that happened yesterday, approximately 5:15, between 5:15, 5:30ish, we had some crazy action. We heard jet fighters. Well, we didn't know what it was. We just heard a thunderous roar over the Hamakua coast. And we were having some FaceTime with a friend of ours, and we scrambled outside thinking that maybe an airplane's going to crash. We didn't know what it was. Next thing you know, we saw two jet fighters scrambling approximately maybe about 2,000 feet in altitude, heading west. And it was very unusual. We don't get this kind of activity over here. So we're thinking we're going to hear some kind of news on the major media like KITV News, any of the news stations here in Hawaii. And it was dead silent. We couldn't find any information. And again, this is very outer place here. We don't get this kind of action over here. Brent.
Yeah, and then we're going to be talking to somebody that is going to give us some details on what happened. He found a little website here on Facebook and pulled up some information, but commercial airliners were involved with this, running out of fuel, and requested multiple times to land. There was even an emergency that was called out. And guess what? This didn't make any of the major news, none of our local news, even newspapers. We're the first ones to break it to you besides Hawaii's news tracker. And we got a lot of people to share with right now. We got a big fan base. So this is how we get the word out.
Absolutely. This is the place to share the info. But right now we're kind of breaking the information because it happened in our backyard. And we're hoping some media would pick up on us, pick up on the information and give us the answers. But right now we're not getting anything out of Hawaii major media. It's kind of silent right now in regards to what happened with apparent commercial airliners running out of fuel because of some jet fighters scrambling. Unknown reasons why, but as of what's been happening in the major media and these shoot downs, you just never know. Were they scrambling for some UFO or unidentified object? Again, we don't have the answers, but we're trying to get right now on the phone a friend of ours that witnessed and heard the same incredible roar of these F-18s, but found on social media here locally. It's, again, very hard to hear, but let's get him on the phone. Let's see what he has to say here. So we're here with one of the eyewitnesses that heard the actual event of the jet fighters passing over the Hamakua coast, but there's some little information coming in from the major media, but he's able to find some posts that's coming in randomly on Facebook. I'm having a hard time finding it, but right now we're with the eyewitness. Go ahead, tell us, what did you hear and find on Facebook?
Okay. So what I found on Facebook in the group called Hawaii Tracker, a gentleman named Scott Wilson, this is what he says. Yesterday morning, I was flying with a student pilot. Not long after we took off from Hilo, the departure controller called us and the other aircraft near Hilo to tell us that the Honolulu control facility had just told them that there was a military operation over the Big Island, and that all civilian aircraft were to remain offshore until further notice. The controller had no other information about it. About 20 minutes later, an F22 declared an emergency and was given landing instructions. The F22 was transmitting on a UHF, so we couldn't hear what the pilot was saying on our VHF radio. But we could hear the controller on the VHF. Air traffic control transmits on both UHF and VHF simultaneously. The controller never repeated back what the emergency problem was, so I don't know what it was. An inbound Transair short 360 cargo plane and Hawaiian 717 were told the airport was closed due to the emergency and to hold about 10 to 20 miles north of the airport, respectively. After the F-22 landed, they were told to continue toward the airport. The second F-22 declared an emergency for low fuel, per what the controller repeated back to the F-22 pilot that we could hear on VHF, and everyone had to hold again. After the second F-22 landed,
So they had to hold it down twice? They had to hold it down twice?
minutes later, we taxied. As we taxied in, I asked the control tower if they had any more information about what was happening. They said they didn't. I checked the Hawaii News Now and the Hawaii Tribune Herald websites, and they had no mention of anything about these events.
Incredible. They're holding these commercial airliners coming in to land into the Hilo airport, and they're told to stand off twice. In the major media, what we're hearing from even the pilots are stating that there was some kind of emergency with this fighter jet 2 that we saw in proximity, but they're not sharing it with the major media. Oh my God, Brent, what's going on here?
Yeah, then we have commercial airliners circling low on fuel, reporting to tower that we need to get on the ground, and they're doing stall tactics. You know what? This was interesting because the person we're talking with right now, we're on the Hamakua coast, and we heard this war. It sounded like something was about to crash over our house, and then we go outside and then we saw two F-18s, if that's what they were, scrambling, going west. And this is interesting. Did they land in Hilo or did they land in Kona?
Or Honolulu?
Well, I believe this guy said they landed in Hilo.
Well, they were, when we witnessed it, they were heading away from Hilo towards Kona, and we didn't see them return unless they went around the other end and circled around the entire island.
You know, I'll also throw this out that this is a very unusual event. Me and Blake know our air traffic, and nothing has happened like this here on the Hamakua coast for at least, I would say, 10 to 20 years, in between just maybe one time in a decade. So we knew this was unusual, and to see these things scrambling, what were they scrambled to go after?
They said something arbitrary?
I beg your pardon?
They were saying that they were scrambling, or they had to. What was the main reason for the jets that they said that they got?
It doesn't really say. They don't really say. We landed about 20 minutes later. As we taxied in, I asked the tower controller if they had any more information about what was happening. They said they didn't.
And did it seem like the pilots were concerned about losing fuel and not getting to the landing pad safely?
Well, I don't know. It just says, after the F-22 landed, we were told to continue toward the airport. Then a second F-22 declared an emergency for low fuel, for what the controller repeated back, and everyone had to hold again. So I guess it was twice. But I'm thinking, maybe they passed the Hamakua coast after all this was done. And maybe they were, because, they looked like they were headed back to Honolulu or toward Oahu. They definitely weren't headed toward Hilo. So maybe when we saw them, it was after the fact.
Absolutely. We're just, again, it's just kind of breaking news, and we don't have all the facts. But right now, the major media is not reporting on this, which is very, very interesting. Again, that once this kind of event doesn't happen over Hamakua with jet fighters in this area for at least 16 years, Brent.
Yeah, exactly. This is this is an event on the Hamakua coast, and they did this. I remember 16 years ago, where we're living here at that time, and they had two F-18s flying over, and it scared the cattle and the people in the town. They made a big up to do about it and stopped this. So this is it's so strange to have something out of the ordinary and then have an emergency on both ends.
And we're trying to find out more on social media. We've done some searching, and we're not finding anything. So Hawaii Tracker, this came into your Facebook feed?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Let's see if we could get more updates. Appreciate you reaching out and sharing some of the evidence. And what did you think on your initial response when you heard these thunderous roars over your head?
Well, it made me wonder just exactly, what is going on, because, at the speed that they were traveling and the amount of noise that they were making, although I only saw one. I thought, you guys said you saw two, but I only could see one, and it was very, very faint, but it was definitely moving at not supersonic, but at a faster rate than the normal planes go, and it was making a lot of noise. So it just piqued my interest as to, is this trouble? Is this, are they, scrambling for a war, or, because as crazy as the world is today, you just never really know. And that's so, like you guys said, it's just so uncommon to see that kind of aircraft, so close to the islands and, and doing what they were doing.
Hey, appreciate it, and you be safe over there. This is kind of interesting, Brent, with all the activity with our military jets engaging UFOs, the Chinese balloons, but the other 3 or 4 other shoot downs, we still have not seen any kind of debris or anything being recovered. So there's still a mystery. Maybe they're scrambling something that was not supposed to be in our airspace over here. Who knows? Right now, no answers from the major media. That's where we're breaking it right here at Third Phase of the Moon. Hopefully, just like we did on the last time with the Southwest breaking news and the American Airlines in regards to the cylindrical object right over their airplane, their commercial airliner. And we're the first to break that ham radio via Jim Goodall leaking that audio to us. So, Brent.
Yeah, it took them 2 to 3 days after we submitted it to the media that we got this audio that happened in Arizona and the American Airlines incident, and they didn't run with this breaking news story. Right now, this is a breaking news story where you have commercial airliners in emergency conditions, and this is not making the news even in our state. This is, I've never seen anything like that or heard anything like an event being covered up so much just within this week.
Absolutely. Again, our information, it's still spotty. Again, it's breaking news, but we're witness to it, and we're getting information from pilots and people that were on the ground. Everybody, be safe out there. And again, we've got more UFO videos coming in, so if you've captured anything amazing, hit us up right at Third Phase of Moon. My email is in the description. Blake Cousins, along with my brother Brent. We'll see you next time.
We do expect to be able to...
When everything else fails, and they got nothing else, they're going to have to go to fake alien invasion.
It's a mind-blowing situation. For the public, it's like, oh, a conspiracy theory, it's entertaining. But if you're actually in a responsible position and you find out that there's a whole secret government program that you don't know about, it's a shock.
This report comes from a shadowy Pentagon department that was shut down in 2012.
The disclosure movement has been hijacked by people parroting the narrative and the script being written by these black projects. I would say 90+% of everything that's going to come out is false.
There's going to be no more of these near misses.
The most widely seen UFO right now is not alien, it's actually ours.
It's a great cover story for all kinds of criminal activities. Blame it on the aliens, right?
If we are being visited by interdimensional beings, we should know about it.
This has the big disadvantage of the truth being much more unbelievable than the fiction.
It's the crash retrievals that are the Rosetta Stone for solving the UFO cover-up.
This is Operation Failsafe.
The implications of this is the difference between extinction level civilization versus one that's going to take off to the stars.
Whoa, what the hell?